Hello, this is Adam Weinberg with the State Water Resources Control Board Division of Water Rights. Today I'm here with you for a tutorial on the Shasta Minimum Livestock Diversion Certification Form. This is only to be filled out by users who are going to be continuing to divert under the curtailment exception for minimum livestock watering needs. If this situation doesn't apply to you, but you need to fill out another form, we have corresponding tutorials for each of the other forms. Some disclaimers before I begin. This video does not supersede the order or the regulation, and viewing this video isn't a replacement for reading the letter that you received, or reading the text of the regulation itself, for viewing the helpful hints for curtailment response on our website. The purpose of this tutorial is just to show you how to log on to the form and how to fill it out. If you've already completed one or more of the forms, some of this may be recap, but bear with me, we'll soon reach the form-specific information. Now, the first step is that we need to get to the website itself. The website address was printed on the curtailment order letter that you received, and you can also see it here at the top of my page. You'll know you're at the right place when you see the same thing on your screen that you see on my screen right now. Once you get to this page, you'll scroll down, click on this login button here on the lower left of your screen. After we click this, we'll get to the login screen. Here's where you will want to fill in your login ID and password. This is information that was provided to you on the curtailment order letter that you received. If you have an existing water right, then you would use the login and password that you use when you log into RMS to file your reporting for your water right. So I'm going to put in my information here. That's my login, and this will be my password. And once you've done that, we'll click this login button here. This takes us to the water user dashboard. Here is where you can see all the different forms that are available for you to fill out. So this includes the Shasta Minimum Livestock Diversion Certification form that we'll be filling out, but it also includes the other exception forms that we have available, including non-consumptive use and health and safety needs, and also the curtailment certification forms. If you received the order imposing water right curtailment and reporting requirements in the Scott River watershed for water rights associated with the parcels listed in Attachment A, you will need to fill out this form here, the Scott Parcel Curtailment Certification and Diversion Information Form. If you received a different order, or you additionally received a different order, you will want to fill out the Scott Shasta Curtailment Certification Form. Once you decide which form you want to fill out, you will go over to see these two buttons here. The survey button will allow you to fill out the form, and the summary button will allow you to view your answers once you've filled out the form, but you won't be able to actually fill out information there from this link. So we'll want to go to the survey button. We want to do the Scott Shasta Minimum Livestock Diversion Certification, so we'll go over here to the survey button and click it. This brings us to the introduction screen. This has some important information on it that you will want to read, but for the purpose of for brevity, I'm going to skip it. Click the button that says Next. This brings us to the contact information screen. This is where you'll put your name and your contact information so that we can contact you if we have any questions about information on your form. One thing I want to bring to your attention is these Previous and Next buttons. If you click the Previous button, it will allow you to go to the previous screen. And the Next button will allow you to navigate to the next screen. Anytime you press Previous or Next, it will save the information that you entered on this screen. If you close your browser before pressing Previous or Next, this information may not be saved. After you put in your information here, click Next. This brings us to the certification page. Here we're going to describe the purpose of our diversion, the amount of water that we need, and the way that we plan to get water to our livestock. First, we'll see a table here. This is an important table that you're going to want to read. Here you're going to see all of the values that are going to be considered to be reasonable under the regulation, such as if you were to see how much water is considered reasonable for one head of cattle for one day, you would see that it's considered to be 15 gallons per day per head of cattle under this regulation. You'll see the same information for different types of livestock. We'll probably be referring to this table a few times as you fill out this form. So remember that it's on this certification page. Now, the first question we get asked here is to describe the source of water that we're using for our livestock watering, where the diversion is located, and the means of conveyance. So this might be that you have a well on a particular parcel that you can convey that water to your cattle by a pipe. The next question will ask you to list the number and type of livestock served by this diversion. So that might be 100 head of cattle. The next question would say to ask you to estimate how much water you anticipate to divert per day and how you reach that estimate. So you might say, I have 100 head of cattle, and looking back at this table, you might say that I use 15 gallons per day per head. Then you'd multiply your 100 head of cattle by 15 gallons per day. And that might be how you reach your estimate. Finally, you'll reach this certification question here. In order to certify that you are using water under the certification, to select these boxes. Here it asks you to certify that the diversion is necessary to provide water to livestock. This next one would say that the diversion is conveyed without seepage. It then asks you to certify that your diversion, on average, does not exceed that amount that's considered reasonable under those quantities that were provided in the table above. If you're able to certify all of these, then we are able to skip the petition section. If you are not able to certify all of these questions, such as perhaps you are needing more water than is allowable under this regulation, you would have to fill out a petition to request more water. That would be on the next page. So again, if you're able to certify that you're using only as much water as is considered reasonable under the regulation, you can skip this section. You can do that by not answering any of these questions, scrolling down to the bottom, and clicking the next button. If you do need a petition to request more water, then we will need to fill out this page. The first question here asks us to describe the circumstances that make this request for more water necessary. The next question will ask us to provide the amount of water that we need per day, the duration that will need that increased amount of water, and then the total amount of water that will divert over that period of need. Next, there's a question that asks us to certify that the water will only be used for livestock watering. Or if we are applying for different certifications under the exceptions provided in the regulation, such as human health and safety needs or non-consumptive uses, we can certify that here. Next, we need to describe any steps that we're taking to reduce our amount of water that we need, such as conservation steps, either now or in the recent past. And then finally, the time frame that we think we'll need in order to reduce our amount of diversion to that's considered reasonable. If we think it's not going to be possible for us to reduce that amount, we'll have to explain why. Finally, there's this section right here, which is very important. If you do not have an email address, you're going to want to need to get one before you submit this form. And that's because when you submit a petition, we are going to contact you to let you know that we approve the petition or that perhaps you need to provide additional information, we'll contact you about that via email. So if you don't have an email address, you'll want to go get one. And if you're unable to get one, you'll need to find someone who has an email address that you trust provide you information when we reach out to them regarding your petition. After you've filled out all the information on this page, we'll click Next. This brings us to the attachment section. Here's where you'd attach any information that you need to help explain your situation. So this might be information about where your water source is, or information that shows why you need more water for your cattle than is considered reasonable under the regulation. And here you would go to choose the file that's on your computer, then you click this button to upload it. And then you describe here what documents you've attached. And then when you're done, you scroll down and click Next. This brings us to the submission page. Here you'll provide the name of the person signing and your relationship to the legal right holder. So I am the person signing, and the legal right holder is myself. But if you're a relative to the legal right holder, you will want to explain that relationship here. Likewise, if it's a business relationship. And then, after you've done that, you want to click this button here, which says, I certify under penalty of perjury that all information entered into this form is true and correct to the best of your knowledge. If you get to this page and then you realize that you need to change some answers, you can go back with the previous button and then get back to this screen using the next buttons. Now, if you submit this form and you realize you still need to change some information, you can still do that. And I'll show you how to do that later. For now, we'll click Finish and Submit. This brings us to the summary page. Here you'll see a summary of all the information you entered into the form. At the very bottom, you see this button that says Show as PDF, and this will allow you to download a copy of the file for your own records. Then you can press Return to Dashboard. This is the screen we saw before, the Water User Dashboard. If you filled out your form and then you realize that you need to change some information, you go back to the form, click on the Survey button, and it'll bring you back to the form. If you do change some information, be sure to get back to that submission page and to resubmit your form. Otherwise, any changes that you make may not be seen by us. If you have any other forms to fill out, you can do that from the screen. This concludes our tutorial. If you have any questions, you can contact us at scottshastadrought@waterboards.ca.gov. One note before I go. When you first sign in, you may be asked to provide an email address if you have not entered this water right portal before. On that first screen that requests your email address, if you do not have an email address, that's okay. You can actually enter any email address on that screen, including the scottshastadrought@waterboards.ca.gov address that you can use to ask us questions about your form or about the regulation itself. I hope this was helpful to you, and I appreciate you taking the time to learn how to correctly fill out your form. Have a good day.